A new report was just released last week that examined how the internet has transformed adoption right here in the U.S. It found technology's effects to be both positive and negative, but above all, far-reaching. Here to talk more about these results is Lori Ingber, the president and founder of Parent Match, also an adoptive mother yourself. You have 2 biological children and 2 adopted children.
I sure do.
You are a busy lady.
I am.
First of all, tell us their ages.
They are 7, 6, 5, and 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, mom's busy right now.
Mom is
very busy.
Yes.
You know, I find it very interesting because I have several friends that have gone the adoption route, and typically I think if you talk to someone, and what I have heard through friends is it's easier to adopt from a different country than right here at home. Does that still ring true?
I think that rings true as one of the myths that we hear a lot, actually. It used to be true that that was the case, but there are a lot of reasons why it's actually the opposite now. A lot of countries are restricting international adoptions for a number of reasons, which makes domestic adoption more popular. But because of this technology that we're sort of talking about in the Internet report that just came out last week, the wait times for domestic adoption are also decreasing.
That's great to hear. Why was it so difficult, first off, and why has it changed?
It's changed mostly because of this technology and mostly because of the use of the internet and adoption together. My company, Parent Match, brings together adoptive parents and expectant parents through their adoption professionals so that they can be matched faster than ever before. So, for example, before this existed, a woman in Maine who's pregnant and ready to relinquish her child is looking at an agency in Maine. She may only have access to adoptive parents from that agency, but now with Parent Match, she has access to adoptive parents from all over the country.
Well, some people might think, is this safe? Is this on the up and up? Because we're dealing with children here. How do we know when we're looking online what to look for?
Right. So Parent Match is totally secure, confidential, and private. Online, when adoptive parents go out there and are looking, they have to be very, very careful. This report from the Donaldson Institute does talk about some of the risks and some of the adoption scams and frauds that go on. So I think it's important to go online and be mindful, use common sense about who you're talking to, and make sure you find an adoption professional that is reputable.
How do you know who to trust? What should you look for? What kind of credentials? So this is very uncharted territory. Not everybody's done this, and it's daunting when you go on the web to know what to trust.
Absolutely. The first thing I would do is do some research through organizations that are credible, like Adoption.com, like Adoptive Families Magazine. They have an online portal, like Parent Match, like the Donaldson Institute. They have a website. And start asking people questions. Go to message boards and say, hey, I've been looking at this adoption agency. Does this sound good to you? Have you used them? What was your experience like? Would you use them again? But what I think is really important is to do a Google search. Make sure you know there isn't anything glaring going on that doesn't sound right to you. Contact the Better Business Bureau in their area and make sure. And call them.
So do your homework.
You really have to do your homework. This is a child that we're talking about, and it's an expensive undertaking. So
what's the price now these days for an American adoption? What do you think from start to finish?
About $30,000.
$30,000, wow.
So make sure that you're getting, you know, what you paid for in terms of service.
One fear, and we've seen stories about it, we've seen made-for-TV movies about it, a woman who's pregnant decides to give her baby up for adoption, but then has a change of heart. As parents, how do you know? Nothing's foolproof, but, you know, how do you know? Are there safeguards in place to make sure something like that is not going to happen?
Well, there's never a guarantee, obviously. When you're working with an adoption professional, and I always recommend you work with an adoption professional, as opposed to just finding somebody online or in a social network and connecting with an expectant mom that way, I always think that you should really work with an adoption professional because they can guide you through every step of the way, and they will be able to look out for things that maybe don't seem right. At any point, an expectant mom has the opportunity to change her mind until she signs the papers, and oftentimes afterwards for a few days. That's okay, and that's a right that she has. But in terms of scams, that's why you should work with an adoption professional.
Yeah, makes sense. You had done some adoptions, 2 of your children that were abroad. Your sister, though, has children that were adopted domestically. And now, tell me about her experience. Was it with newborns? Because Parent Match, we were talking about matching people that with expectant mothers, but there's so many children here in America that are older and still need loving homes.
Absolutely. Her experience was with newborns, and she had this typical sort of infertility to adoption experience. She and her husband tried to have children biologically, could not. ended up looking with 2 different adoption agencies, hoping that their sort of wait would go faster if they were working with an adoption agency in different places. And really, by word of mouth, I heard about an agency down south that had a baby available and no adoptive parents. And that just didn't seem right to me because, as you said, your friends had waited, and you hear all these myths about how long it takes, and that was the truth. She went down, she picked up my niece the next day, and that was sort of where Parent Match was born. There were babies waiting. Her agency didn't know about it. This was a way to connect them all. There are also older children who need homes. We don't work with foster care, but there are certainly children available for private domestic adoption who are older, who are not babies.
Well, it's good to know that there's that connection because, as we said in the beginning of this, so many years you would think, oh, to do it here in America, it takes forever.
Right.
And it was just the hunt. So it's like the link that you made with Parent Match here.
Exactly.
So if anybody's interested in that, that is where to go to
That's
check
right.
it out. Lori, thank you so much.
Thanks so much.